We've done a lot of different videos on Mr. Whiggley, but I want to show you today how to make a multi-piece or a 5-piece mold like we did in the advanced Mr. Whiggley tutorial. When Larry originally created Mr. Whiggley, he did it out of clay, but once he knew he was going to go into production with it, we had to create engineering drawings. So Lumelight Engineering went through and actually designed Mr. Whiggley and drew it up in SolidWorks, which is a 3D modeling or engineering software. From there, what we did was we reverse engineered the parts for the mold that we wanted to make. So instead of actually claying or printing an actual model up and then claying it up and pouring it like we would do if we didn't have the engineering drawing, we then simply 3D printed the reverse of the different mold sections that we wanted. So this is the bottom, and it's clayed up with locators already. And then what we had to do is simply pour our silicone rubber over top of it, and we had that section of the mold made. We did that with all the different sections, the tail, and the other portions of the body. So once the silicone cured, we could remove these sections and assemble our mold, and we're ready to start pouring. So this would give us the mold of the body. This would give us the mold of the tail section. Now we can pour the tail one color, insert it onto the body mold, and we're ready to pour the body. I want to show you today how we actually did this with a different design. This is a design that I made that's a little bit bigger profile, a little bit bigger body than the original Mr. Whiggley. Let me show you how we did that. Here you can see we have just a straight 2-piece mold, and that's how I originally made this. But I wanted to show you guys how to do the multi-piece mold if you wanted to create different colored tails. So we start off by claying it up as we normally do. Lay it into a bed of clay, smooth it all out, and trim the seam line so it's absolutely straight and perfect. The cleaner the parting line, the cleaner the seam line, and the less flash you're going to have. The difference of making a 2-piece mold versus a multi-piece mold is we have to clay up more sections. So we simply add clay over the tail section, smooth that out, and then box it up, and we're ready to pour the first section of our mold. Here we're using the Plat 55, which is a high durometer, which means it's more firm. It locates better to the multiple pieces of the mold. We mix it. We like to degas it if you have those capabilities. It's not required but recommended. Once it's thoroughly mixed, we're ready to pour it. So when we mix up enough silicone, we mix it up only to pour that one section. Once that's cured, here we put a little bit of baby powder on just to remove any tack that might be on there. Remove the next section of the clay that we want to pour, the next section of the mold, and we're ready to cut locators, mold release it, and pour the next section, which will be the tail section. Once we've mold released it, we want to add some locators into this section. Here we're just using the back of an Excel knife, adding some dimples into the clay, and we're ready to pour the next section. Once the second part is cured, we reproduce that same exact process. Remove the clay of the next section we want to mold, add locators, mold release it, and pour the silicone. And then we do that same exact process for the last part of our mold, or I should say the fourth, because there will be a fifth. Once all 4 sections of the mold have cured, we're ready to demold. Remove the pin for the eyes and break away the different sections. This will give us a 4-piece mold that locates perfectly over our original. Here you can see we have a mold of the body and a mold of the tail, and they fit perfectly. Now what we need to do is make the 5th piece of the mold. This is going to give us that little stem or that little nipple that sticks out of the tail, which will then be inserted into the body mold. So when we pour the Alumisol of the body, it will actually grab hold of that tail section rather than just having a perfectly flat seam line. Here we're just using some tape to make the mold box for a quick and easy mold. When it's cured, we remove the clay, remove the little popsicle stick, cut our locator, and now we have a perfect 5-piece mold that will allow us to pour that stem of the tail. We use an Excel knife or a razor blade knife to cut the pore hole. We can also use the same knife to cut the vent holes for the tail. We cut it a little bit deeper up top, but we only want to cut a very thin section where it actually touches the part. This will keep our seam line to a minimum. We also cut a very thin groove at the nose and also the belly for the wire harness. Now we're ready to bend our wire, insert it into our mold, and start pouring our parts. So you can see it, we're going to pour this out of black. And then later we'll actually paint and decorate it using the Copic paint system and Illumidust. But this mold process enables you to pour a tail section which is different color, similar to what we showed early in the video with the orange tail and the white body. Here we're pouring some stiff or straight Alumisol, which is a little bit harder, into the head as well as the tail. Once the tail section is cured, we insert that onto the body mold, making sure that stem enters into the body mold perfectly. Now we're ready to pour our really softened Alumisol. Here we're using 2 parts Alumisol, 1 part softener. You can see how thin it is. We're also adding some weight by simply eating some buckshot or some BBs. Then we simply pour the mold complete and let it cool. Now we're ready to dress it up and decorate it using both Illumidust and the new Copic system. The Copic pens are great for airbrushing soft plastics or hard resins. Simply snap the pen into the little airbrush, paint your color. When you need to change colors, pull out a new pen, snap it in, and go ahead and paint. To lock the color in, what we do is we use highly softened Alumisol, heat it up, and then simply dip the lure that we've painted and decorated. This will lock both the paint and the Alumisol into our lure. Now we're ready to put some hooks on it and throw it in the water. By simply varying the amount of soft plastic versus softener as well as weight that you put into them, you can create completely different actions in your lures. So play around with the softener and the placement of your weight and how much weight you add, as well as the different finishing techniques that we've showed you here to create an unlimited number of different styles of baits. If you have questions on this process, please let us know. Visit the forum on MakeLure.com or Hunt for Big Fish, or give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help you.